Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm here this morning with David.
Good morning.
And we are afraid to let you know we are tackling the topic of fear this morning, and it couldn't be better timing because the weekly energy and the monthly energy both converge on this opportunity this week for us to face our fears, not in a scary way, but in a joyful, exciting, and peaceful way.
Yeah, and we hope to approach this topic of fear with new content, new ways of looking at this topic. I think this topic has been chewed up many times in many ways around the world, and we are going to bring deep Kabbalistic wisdom with modern day concepts and deliver it in a way that can be memorable and practical for people to use this week.
Right, and we will explain why and how to approach this topic. But I think the first question we have to answer is, what is fear? How do we define fear? What is the problem with fear?
Well, there's many ways to approach this, and some of the ways that the Kabbalists look at it, the universal Kabbalah being the universal wisdom of the human soul for every soul in this world. Kabbalah explains that, for example, we came to this world to transform and to correct any negativity that we had since the time of creation, and through this correction, we can receive the ultimate fulfillment and pleasures that we all desire. Every desire that we have is meant to be fulfilled. And the reason why it is not is because we're not accessing what's called the light of the Creator. Fear just means that in a past life, there are mistakes that were made or reactive behavior that we had, missed opportunities of where we should have transformed and we didn't, where we indulged in negative desires, indulged in reacting to lack, in reacting to some form of pain, as opposed to transforming ourselves and becoming strong and becoming like the Creator as we learn. We ended up being reactive and indulging in our fears. So this perpetuates the fear. And then in this life, we carry this into the realm that we're in now. So every time I'm afraid of something, even especially when it comes out of nowhere, or maybe it's precipitated by something I just saw on TV or something that just happened in my life, we need to know that the reason I'm afraid is because at that moment I'm being given the opportunity to transform something inside my soul. And once I transform it, I unlock a huge amount of pleasure and fulfillment that is waiting to come into my life.
And by the way, you may have something that happened in this lifetime that validates that fear. For example, you may have been betrayed in a relationship, and therefore in every subsequent relationship, you're afraid of being betrayed again.
That's right.
You may have had some, car accident and therefore are hesitant to get into a car again. There may be a scenario that validates that fear from the current movie.
Yeah.
But what David is reinforcing is that any setup in our life in the present is a result of some experience in a past life. And so I know that that's sometimes a big pill to swallow, a horse pellet, if you will. But the wisdom of Kabbalah gives us that understanding, and we'll have the opportunity to talk more in depth about that in a few weeks. But the idea is that those opportunities will continue to come to us, and will increase in difficulty, like in a video game, right? As you level up, the opportunities become increasingly challenging, so that you are challenged by them. So you may not be afraid of monsters under your bed anymore. You're afraid of something, let's say, more legitimate, more valid. Again, your reality is going to validate that fear. But here comes Kabbalah, here comes Weekly Energy Boost, and says, this is actually, I mean, David, you've said it in many shows, if you want to create miracles, tackle one fear every day.
Right.
This is the week. This is the week. And I'm going to repeat it again and again. Make a list of the things that you are afraid of, from the big to the small, and tackle those things bit by bit, bite by bite. Not all in one day and not even all in 1 week, but make that effort to dismantle or disintegrate that list, because that's where the miracles are.
One of the questions that we get a lot in our classes is, well, I'm afraid of so many things, or there's so many things I feel I need to transform, and it's overwhelming. And oftentimes what people do is they disperse their energy in trying to work on so many different things. How do I know what I need to work on first? How do I know what fear I should deal with first? Mm-hmm. And Kabbalah is very centric on the idea that wherever you focus your energy, that's where you're going to see manifestation. And what fear do I need to work on now? It's the one that you want, that you feel you most want to transform. If you want to change it, that's the Creator's way of telling you that's what you should change. And a lot of times we get into this guilt of, I got so many things I need to change. What do I change first? The message is the thing you want to change and you feel it's foremost in your life and you feel it's pressing on you the most, and you actually are sick and tired of it, that is the Creator, the universe, telling you this is what should be changed. And so much so that if you're excused from changing all the other things. In fact, you get kind of a reprieve, you get immunity on all the other negative qualities that you're not dealing with, just to focus on this one. So if I focus on one fear and I gradually transform it, and we give tools and lessons and wisdom of how to transform, if I just work on one at a time, I have immunity for all the other negative qualities I have, at least until I fully transform the one at hand.
And this week, and by the way, today, if you're listening on Monday, today begins the new month of Aquarius on the Kabbalistic calendar.
That's right.
And David, who sometimes when he's in the mood, he represents the sign of Aquarius. When he's not in the mood, he's a Pisces. But that one of the things, and by the way, I'm working on my PhD in Aquarius. I have 3 Aquarians at home. One of the great, I think one of the most admirable qualities of Aquarians is their fearlessness.
Yeah.
And that's my desire today, as we normally talk about the new moon as an opportunity to plant seeds. But for me, one of the most powerful things about this day, this 24-hour period, is that who you are, the energy you bring, the attitude you carry has an impact on the following 30 days,
That's
29
right.
days. So I know that some of you are listening to this in the evening and you're saying, why couldn't we have talked about it last week? Point taken. But if you're listening to it this morning or anytime on Monday, make that effort to be the best version of yourself, as sharing as you can be, as proactive as you can be, as kind as you can be, and that will reverberate through the entire month. This month specifically, and every month, by the way, we adopt some of those qualities of that sign, and we want to use that as our superpower this month and this week, is that fearlessness, that a good Aquarian can take it to a point of recklessness and insensitivity, but the rest of us, we want to take it to, let me lose those inhibitions, let me be in the present moment and take advantage of whatever opportunities are in front of me, regardless of my concern over how it's going to affect, alter my reality.
That's right. And the reason why we brought up the idea that Kabbalah explains the fears are past life missed opportunities that come up again in this life is to emphasize the point that anything that we're afraid of is our responsibility and opportunity. The fact that someone on the outside is triggering our fear, maybe they're doing so through business. Maybe it's a lawsuit you're caught in. Maybe you're going through a rocky relationship and you're afraid about what your future is going to look like without this person. Maybe you're in a rocky marriage and you're worried and have fear about how your kids are going to turn out. Maybe you're afraid of getting older. You're watching your relevancy fade, right? All of these things trigger fear, and we think that the problem is something on the outside that's triggering it. And that is the illusion. That is the test that we all go through. We fail the test when we give any power to the outside causing us to feel bad. When I say, oh, I'm afraid because you did that, or I'm in pain because you did that, immediately we fail the test. And not only have we failed the test, we've invited more negativity and more fear into our lives. When someone does something to you, or an external event causes you to feel fear, realize that that fear is coming up no matter what, for you as an opportunity to transform, and as a result connect to the light of the Creator, which is all the fulfillment we're looking for. And that's why we emphasize the past life idea. It's all based on our soul. In fact, everyone around us is an illusion. Everything, it's just you and the Creator. I'm talking here, it looks like I'm talking to Elisheva and an audience. Truthfully, it's all an illusion. It's all a show that the Creator is putting on for me to go through my personal transformation.
Absolutely. And the notes that I wrote, that the points I want to make are points for me, right? The universe was
we're only
sending
talking
me,
to I'm only talking to myself.
the universe sent me all these beautiful lessons. And even as I'm looking, we have a question here. How do you know it's a fear and not an actual threat you need to be afraid of, right? You need to be aware that maybe there is this lawsuit, or maybe
Sure.
your actions will have ramifications. To me, the question is always if my consciousness creates my reality, what am I doing with my consciousness right now? Am I envisioning doomsday, or am I saying, okay, that's a possibility. What can I do to reveal light right now?
This is an excellent question. When a fear comes up, how do I know this is not a legitimate threat? Something that I should actually be afraid and worried about.
Well, this came up this morning. As many of you know, yesterday, Kobe Bryant and a number of other people passed away, died in a helicopter crash not far from where we are actually right now. And you can see it in the city, you can see it on social media and the news, this outpouring of, hug your children, don't fly a helicopter, right? To me, obviously, terrible things happen every day.
Right.
They don't happen every day in the public sphere to somebody who has impacted so many people, who's such a I don't want to use the word celebrity, but such a public figure,
Yeah.
right? So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what can we learn from it, right? Is it to put the helicopter industry out of business? Is that why it happened? Is it so that nobody ever lets their children out of their sight anymore?
Right.
I say obviously not. I'm sure that there are a lot of people that are very afraid right now. And I bring that as an example because if my consciousness creates my reality and I'm afraid of something happening, I am actually bringing it to me. And that, I think, is one of the most important practices when it comes to elevating consciousness and mindfulness, is to ask myself, what am I investing my thoughts in? If I am thinking fear-based thoughts all the time, I am attracting situations that I should be afraid of.
You're facing a threat. How do you handle the threat? Even science will tell you, and some of the greatest professionals in every field will tell you, you get a notice for something that's very scary. It can be a medical issue or a financial issue or a relationship issue, whatever. You need to deal with it the way you always deal with it. Get the right professionals, work hard in trying to fix the problem. What we're saying is, if you can first transform your consciousness and transform your fear, which we'll give some steps on how to do so. If you can first transform your consciousness and your fear and then go through the usual steps of fixing the problem, you've now invited the universal energies of this world, what we call the light of the Creator, to help you solve your problem. If you approach solving any problem from fear, you cannot solve the problem. You're inviting chaos. Your partner is chaos in the problem-solving steps. So what we're saying is, yeah, there is a legitimate threat. Maybe you do need to take more precautions when it comes to safety. Yes, you got to reply to your lawsuit. Yes, you got to confront your relationship issues. Absolutely. But where are you coming from? Are you first transforming your fear, which Kabbalah gives us the steps of how to transform? Or are you afraid and then writing a text? Are you afraid and then writing an email? Are you afraid and picking up the phone? Are you afraid and engaging in conversation? Exactly. So that fear, that's the negativity. And you cannot bring the negativity into the conversation, into the actions of life. That's what we're saying.
Right. And we have some great questions. I want to address one of them simply because in my preparation for today's show, this is actually something that fascinates me on a psychological and physiological level, because the question is about kids, right? Okay. Parenting. It's very hard not to worry about your kids. And again, related to the helicopter crash, there were 3 kids on the flight, right? My kids are horrified, not because they know them, but because, what do you mean kids can die in a crash? There is a difference between parenting out of fear and parenting out of love, right? And that doesn't mean that you're not responsible. You have to be responsible and teach your children to be cautious and aware and sensitive to their surroundings and everything. But if you're afraid of things happening, you're actually asking the universe to bring them to you. And I read something really beautiful in this vein, that when you're afraid, it's because you're attached to the outcome. You're afraid of something happening on down the line. You're afraid of your kids making the same mistakes you did, or not fulfilling their potential. Let's say you're a higher level of fear. You're afraid that your children won't fulfill their potential. What kind of decisions are you going to make out of that fear? That's really my question, not only to myself, but to parents everywhere. If you are afraid, how much more limited your decisions are going to be when you practice what the opposite of fear. In Kabbalah, we call that certainty. When you have certainty, you're attached to the process. And when I read that, right, fear is attachment to the outcome, certainty is attachment to the process.
I like that.
That means that I don't want to miss the opportunity of right now. And to me as a parent, in a very practical sense, that means constantly looking for teachable moments, constantly listening to the message behind the behavior, behind the words, being really almost like hyper present, like still shots. Not slowing down what's going on in the home or in your environment, and really paying attention, but recognizing that every soul that comes into your home, whether by natural birth, adoption, marriage even, those souls are there for you, with you for a reason. And if you're focused on what's going to happen 20 years from now, not that that shouldn't be a factor, right? You do need to think about the future and how you can equip your children with the best that you can equip them with. But the best that you can equip them with means doing it with love and not with fear.
Okay, so we're giving tools to people. Okay, we're going to give you practical, step-by-step, clear tools of how to deal with fearful moments. Also, please comment and ask your questions in the box. We're reading your questions live and we're answering them. And whatever's coming to us, it's probably a message of what the world needs to hear.
And if you know someone who needs to hear these messages, tag them, share the link, get it to them however you can. Another way that you can help get the show out there is by rating and reviewing. So if you're listening on the podcast now, pause for a moment, get onto iTunes, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify. It can be YouTube, it can be IGT. Let the universe know how you feel about it so that we can reach more people.
Our audience is growing every week, and that's because of you. So thank you. So here's some practical tools. Elisheva just spoke about a quick and easy tool that when I'm afraid, we established that fear is bad. We established that fear creates negative seeds. We established that fear perpetuates chaos in my life. I want to transform it. All fear comes from investing my time and energy into my future, as opposed to taking clear advantage and respecting the now. The now is so powerful that ultimately we have to get to a place where we make a decision to live our life just based on the now. I know that part of our training, our spiritual training all these years by our teachers, has been, let's live your life one day at a time. Then, when you've been able to master that, live your life 1 hour at a time. What does that mean, 1 hour at a time? It means I don't even think about tomorrow. Oh, here's a thought of, oh my God, what's going to happen to my children? Here's a thought of, oh my God, how am I going to be in love? Oh, here's a thought of, oh my God, how am I going to pay the bills? Well, that's not a concern at this hour. This hour requires something from you. Invest in this hour. And then eventually our training has been live life 5 minutes at a time. So when you start to live life this way, you literally disregard the future. And some of you might say, well, that sounds incredibly irresponsible. And I'm not saying you don't think about the future or plan. That's fine. There are moments to proactively choose, here's 10, 20, 30 minutes, I'm going to plan my future. But that's a choice you're making and it's coming from you. That means you're God. You're the creator. When intrusive thoughts come to you and force you. Right. And when intrusive thoughts or people come to you and force you to think about the future, that's reactive. It's all about the intention. It's all about where is it coming from. So what I'll do is maybe I'll set time throughout the day, maybe morning or night or whatever, and I'll plan my future. I'll write down all my ideas and my creative thoughts of what I want to create for my future. Wonderful. But I'm choosing that. Then once I've made that plan, I'm going to live my life 5 minutes at a time, which means 1,000 messages come, 1,000 tests and challenges come, and I ignore all of them. I say, okay, that's a great test. What am I going to do right now to be like the light? What am I going to do now to be sharing? What am I going to do now to inject certainty? What am I going to do now to inject strength? What am I going to do now to inject compassion? And then the opponent is screaming in our ear, well, what about this? And what about the future? The opponent is not allowed to dictate my future. I decide throughout my day when I plan my future. And that is the balance of planning your future and being in the now. And that destroys fear. That transforms fear. That dematerializes fear. That's the secret every time we feel this intrusive thoughts coming in.
And I remember being a fledgling Kabbalah student and being a water sign, one of the...
all fear-based. Water signs are fear-based.
Well, I don't resonate with that, David. But what speaks to me is that what the key word for the water signs is control. That feeling, that sense of control, which is really, if you're afraid, you feel things are out of control, out of your control.
Correct.
The teaching that spoke to me way back in the beginning was the only real thing you have control over is right now. Mm-hmm. And what you do right now is what determines the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. So stop worrying about the moments that aren't here yet and do something with the moment that you have right now. There was such a relief. I remember feeling like, wow, this is right now is the only time I've actually got. What am I doing with it? And how can the Kabbalistic metaphor is that it's like a basket in front of me. And my role as a human being is to fill it with light. How do I fill it with light? All the things that we talk about every week: sharing, being proactive, not indulging in my fears, not being right. Anything that is, what's the word? I mean, to me already, I'm just the concept of filling. If I am doing something there's actually a great kids book out there that that's called "Have You Filled Your Bucket Today?"
Oh, I like that.
And in sharing that book with my kids, and they did projects around it at school, they actually start to talk that way. My bucket feels empty. What can I do to fill my bucket right now? And obviously it goes to kindness and sharing and doing things that get me outside of my comfort zone. Really powerful. But the idea that the only thing that's really in my control is what I'm doing right now and what I'm thinking about and how I'm feeling and what I'm doing. And that if I manage to fill the basket in front of me with light, that's what's making my future better.
Right.
What not even light bulb, fireworks went off in that moment for me, because if I really am worried about my future, I need to be revealing the power of my soul right now. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to make my future better. And the shift that the universe gives us the opportunity to make this week and this month is to release those barriers. To me, it's like not belts, but like ropes. You're so close to the joy, the happiness, the peace of mind, the security, and something is not letting you enjoy it. I mean, I remember we've had shows where people have commented, and we spoke about how do you enjoy your success? How do you enjoy your relationship without being afraid, without feeling like, well, it's a matter of time before we fight again, or if it's a matter of time before the market crashes, or if it's how does that help you right now? Where are you investing your thoughts and your energy and your actions right now? That to me is the magic pill from shifting from fear into certainty and love.
I'm going to summarize what you said. We learned in Kabbalah that time is a vessel. It's a basket. And in this 10 minutes, what do I fill that basket with? If it's worry and anxiety, and usually that perpetuates more reactive behavior, the basket is filled with chaos. That's in my vessel. So we're saying now, focus on those 5 minutes. Focus on that hour. What are you going to do? A challenge occurs, you're afraid, and you have lack, and you have pain. Time is a basket. What am I filling it with? Summarizing what you said, and a couple steps of what I do is, first, every time something negative happens, I say, I have certainty this is for the good. And it's a mantra we say over and over again until it goes from the head into the heart and it's part of you. Because anything you say to yourself over and over again eventually becomes part of you. That's the power of a mantra. It works for everybody and it works beautifully. If you want to believe in something, Say something to yourself over and over and over again. It's going to sound fake and awkward in the beginning, but fake it till you make it is a spiritual concept and it is valid. You will eventually have it be part of you. I say, I have certainty this is for the good. Now, I don't even know why or how it's going to be good. But
or how the good looks, or
or I don't know, where's the good coming from?
What time is it arriving?
Yeah, when is it coming? Is it good? Is it going to be good on Tuesday? Is it going to be good on Friday? All of these thoughts are you wanting to know, and knowing is a problem right now. You have to rise above knowing. You have to rise above logic. Kabbalists say every time you have certainty that requires you to go beyond logic, you create a miracle beyond logic. Every time your life is very much in your control and you know where this is coming from and you know where that is and you know. It's like you just know everything. It says you suffocate the miracles and the miracles cannot come. So yes, it's nice to know and it's nice to be in control, but once in a while something will happen that is out of your control. You cannot predict where it's going to come from and what's going to happen. Get excited about those moments where it's totally ludicrous. It's like, I have no clue how I'm going to be happy. That's a good sign. I don't have a clue. I mean, sometimes I see where the check is coming from. There is a deal that could work out. I'm in a situation where I have zero clue where the money's coming from. I have zero clue how this problem will remedy itself. That's a good sign. That's certainty beyond logic. That's my first step. My second step is I just tell myself, what do I need to do in the first 5 minutes? Let's focus on these first 5 minutes. It's a mix of happiness. It's a mix of practical steps to fix the problem. It's a mix of putting a smile on my face and just being proactive.
I go to my playlist. I find a song that snaps me out of
I do the same
mood.
thing.
I honestly, the reality is
music works for people. That's great.
But again, that's a frequency shifter, the same way that a mantra is.
That's right.
Music is the universal language, and it helps us to recalibrate. So
right.
I have the song, my go-to songs. I know David does also. Knowing what works for you, it's not a weakness. That's it.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Spiritual people, what do they do? They listen to music. It is a form of meditation. It's a game changer. And the other thing, I know that there's tons of examples we could use, but I think another really powerful realization is that when you're in that mode of fear, right, and it's hard to shift. I'm not talking about I see something on TV, I want to hug my kids, and I move on from it. When you really are gripped, and we had somebody who wrote in recently about she was recently divorced, and her kids were going away with, or I think it was her daughter was going away with her ex. And
the Disneyland dad?
Not yet in that mode. It's new. It's still fresh.
It's still fresh.
Her daughter was going to spend time with her father, and she was afraid. She didn't know what they were doing. She didn't know, she had these worries that they were unsafe, or what if she gets lost, etc. And I've been through similar experiences, and I shared with her that that fear that grips you, right? Mm-hmm. That it really, I remember the Rav saying it's like your opponent has the chokehold on you. It really feels like a chokehold. Ask yourself in that moment, and this was, again, a next level process for me, is, does me being afraid right now ensure anyone's safety?
Does me being afraid right now ensure anyone's safety?
Does me being afraid right now ensure that my bills are going to get paid, or that I'm going to be relevant next year? Do any of my fears put money in the bank, put health in my body? The opposite, right? Fear will deteriorate the body physically. Fear will deteriorate your relationships. If you're in a relationship with a great person and you are afraid they're going to cheat on you, that will destroy your relationship. And the realization, I said...
And we know that because people tell us. People come to our personal meetings and say, it's a great guy, but I just don't, I'm not attracted to him. I say, why? It's like, he's always so afraid of losing me. He's always so afraid of this and so afraid of that. It is an ugly, unattractive quality, the vibration of fear.
Right. We've talked about that many times. But imagine yourself, you have that revelation. Wait a second. This thought pattern that is my go-to, I get in bed at night and my mind starts racing. What's going to happen? How am I going to... Who's suffering in that moment?
That's right.
You. You're not sleeping. You're stressed out. Your heart is racing. You can't sleep.
That's right.
And then the ropes break and you realize, you know what? If I'm really worried, there are things I can do. But right now, what I'm doing isn't helping anyone, and the opposite. It's actually hurting me.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I think that part of the...
And I want to throw something else that's going to probably be scary is I've seen it so many times. I've seen it with my own kids. Your kids are completely parallel your emotions. And when your kids are thriving, it's because you're breaking your internal fears. And when your kids are getting delayed and they're getting sick or things are happening to the kids, it has a seed level thing to do with parents not breaking through their stuff, not cleansing themselves of their negative behavior or whatever. Kids are so sensitive to that vibration. You cannot hide your fights. You cannot hide your dissension in your marriage. You cannot hide your infidelity from the spirituality that kids feel. And this is huge. I mean, it's good that we live in a world like that where we're always being held accountable energetically. So even if the government's not watching you, your kids are watching you.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, that doesn't mean, forget about, don't, what I want to say is that there is such a thing as healthy fear, right? You want to make sure that your kids brush their teeth so that they don't have cavities or that they, don't go out near a pool unattended, right? We're not saying go for it, free for all, don't worry about anything, physics doesn't apply here.
So tell us about healthy fear. What is an example of transforming negative fear to healthy fear?
Well, teaching healthy habits.
Okay.
I think, there's my kids are afraid of going to the doctor. I think that's not a terrible fear. I mean, I want them to feel comfortable, but they're taking their vitamins every day and brushing their teeth and flossing and using mouthwash and all the lesson is there are things that you can do to prevent unnecessary pain, unnecessary suffering. And one of the questions we got right here, which is really beautiful, is what do you do when your kid is afraid of something? Right. So I learned from my teacher, Karen Berg, a beautiful technique of giving them, and this is, I mean, if you haven't done it with your kids are older, this is a message even for adults without children. This is something you can do for yourself. Teach yourself to connect with source. Teach yourself to connect with the creator, because that's really where the medicine is. So for example, your child is afraid there's something scaring them in their bedroom. Talk to your angels. Talk to God. Find even, if for us as Kabbalah teachers, so we have specific meditations and tools that I give my child the Zohar to sleep with, and there are different things that I know for me, they feel the energy and it does calm them. I give them they have a meditation that they can recite. So this is things that I've been doing with them for a period, but you can do that, whatever your belief system is. It doesn't have to be necessarily one of the things I've shared just now, but give them a spiritual anchor, because they will be afraid when you're not in the other room.
That's right.
And you want them to be able to connect to that peace of mind and security that comes from having that relationship with the Creator. Having that relationship, that soul relationship. So, you may be interviewing for a job right now and all the potential scenarios, what am I going to say when they say this? And what are they going to say when they ask me, what do I want to be paid? And what are they going to say when... 1 second. God is my silent partner. God and I are going to walk into the room and I'm going to pull a chair out for God to sit in next to me and we're going to negotiate. I have nothing to be afraid of. And so that teaching yourself, whether it's going to be music, by the way, it could be music for your child. Maybe there's a song that helps them calm down and reminds them they're safe, they're protected, they have their angels around them. Again, you got to do what works for you, but you can teach them to, I think in child psychology, it's called self-soothe, but you can teach them to self-soothe spiritually.
Love it. Let's reiterate some of the main points we talked about fear. Number one, we said that the world is an illusion. Everything is a test. When something is coming to you and making you scared, it's just a test for you to grow and to transform. The universe is putting pressure on you because the universe wants to send you your soulmate. The universe wants to send you a financial abundance. The universe wants to send you peace of mind. This energy has to be earned. And in Kabbalah, we learned that it can only be earned through transformation. It cannot be earned through manipulating people and manipulating this world. You may think you got successful for a moment, but then it will backlash and it will leave your vessel and you will be left empty. We talked about the fact that fears often come from what we didn't correct in a past life. If there's something that comes up over and over again in your life, a fear that comes up over and over again in your life, it's something you have not dealt for thousands of years. And it's important to make that decision now that you want to transform it. We talked about the balance of planning our future and living in the now. Planning the future should be something I choose to do and I dedicate time to do. That is very proactive and that brings miracles. When I'm going through my day and my future is bombarding me and entering my thoughts as intrusive thoughts and making me scared, that's a negative way of planning my future. Planning your future should be something you plan to do, not something that the universe forces you to do. Then we talked about living in the now, respecting the moment. You said time is a basket. Time is a vessel. What are you filling it with? Are you filling it with negativity, doubts, worries, evil speech, judgment? All of this negative energy is accounted for.
Drama. Drama is a big basket filler. And by the way, if you're filling your basket with drama, that's something to be afraid of.
The Zohar talks about these two angelic forces that have pens in their hands and they write down every single thing. One writes down every bit of negative energy that comes from us. And there's like a ledger that has all the negativity. It's a court
reporter.
Yeah, a court reporter that has everything written down, every single thought, word, and action. And then there's a force, call it an angel, whatever, a positive force that writes in the ledger every positive thing you've done. Very important to take that seriously and fill that basket with all the things that we learn in Kabbalah 1, which is proactive behavior, certainty, transformation, all the things that we've learned.
Can we pause for a commercial?
Sure.
So I mentioned this last week. David, if you're in the LA area, or you know people in the LA area, David is starting a new course tomorrow night at 7, Tuesday, right?
Yeah, tomorrow night, 7 p.m.
Tuesday, January 28th, 7 p.m. If you are not local, by the way, if you lie, cheat, and steal to get.
Well, I would actually say we're actually over capacity. We have 650 people signed up for that. So maybe coming to that class is not the best idea.
No, I think it's the best idea. If you are listening and you are able to physically get there, lie, cheat, and steal to get there. Bring your kids if you have to. Do not miss it. Well, don't bring your kids. It's not for kids.
And don't bring your dogs. Sometimes people bring dogs, and it's not a place for dogs.
It's a class for humans above the age of 18, I would say.
I have some 15-year-olds.
Okay, so 15 and up. If you can't get there physically, get to Kabbalah1.com. I cannot tell you how much good I have seen come from it, and it's done beautifully. You'll have the opportunity to interact and ask questions. If you have them, if you haven't done it yet, don't put it off.
I know we talked about having a discount code for our listeners. I don't know if that's been set up yet or not.
Okay, hopefully we'll get that set up. All
right.
Go if you can.
You finished commercial break?
That's my commercial. I feel it's important that I say it rather than David self-promotes. It is really life-changing.
Yeah. I'm getting messages and emails and notifications from Facebook every day from people who are taking the masterclass. And my promise to you is it will change your life if it's something you can devote time to. Okay, so let's finish the summary. And then, we finished with time as a basket. And then you gave us some good parenting tips, good ways. Some tips that you gave us about how to not stink of fear, how fear puts a negative stench upon our kids, our family, our business, our relationships. And then we also talked about Aquarius. This is the month of Aquarius. Aquarius is known for breaking norms and breaking fear and getting that strength. We can draw upon that strength. Today is the new moon. So today being, Monday morning, has the new moon energy. The new moon is the most important time to be on our best behavior because it's planting the seeds for the whole month.
I guess there's one quick question that I want to address here because I think it's
what is our audience saying?
Really relevant, and I've stood in those shoes before. When someone you love drinks or smokes too much, or for that, I'm adding in my commentary, does any sort of reckless or negative, detrimental behavior, how can you not be afraid? How can you lose those fears?
Wait, say that again. I didn't understand that.
Let's say you have someone you love is doing drugs.
Okay,
smoking 3 packs a day, drinking too much. How do you let go of those fears? My question would be, how does being afraid help them, or you, for that matter?
All right, so that's good.
Right. That's the first point. Is I realize it's easy to go there, and again, that's why I think Kabbalah 1 is so essential because Kabbalah 1 will really teach you to interrupt those negative thought patterns. That's when I think the first class, that's what you leave with, is a system on how to break the patterns of negative thinking and negative behavior. So the first question is, being afraid for that person isn't helping them be more healthy, isn't helping them break their addictions. It's only going to have you behaving and speaking in a reactive way with them.
That's right. So, wow. So what I would say about that is, if someone came to me and said, I have a close family member, especially if it's family member or a close friend that has a soul connection to you, how do you help this person? Well, it depends on how you want to approach this. Rarely will I say the approach is an intervention.
I was going to say it's.
I mean, that's not
it's a very extreme.
That's not our gig, right? As Kabbalah teachers, there are people who do that and who do that well. That's not what we do. That's not what we promote, even though it does work sometimes.
I've had to do an intervention for someone before. With their family.
Yeah, with their family. Yeah. And that's fine. And by the way, sometimes I do say, you know what, if that person is open and that person wants to change, bring them to a session and we'll have a session, the three of us. That works too. But someone's telling me, this person is sick or this person has a drug addiction, whatever. What do I do about that? What I have seen works, and it works powerfully, but it requires a lot of effort. This is also where I see if the person really does care about the other person. Is I say, all right, let's work on you for a moment. I need you to be such an inspiration of light that you're like Jesus walking in, like Moses and Jesus walking in the room together, holding hands. It's so inspiring that all your negative thoughts,
all the cigarettes fall out of their pocket.
Yeah. Who's going to be smoking and vaping in front of Moses and Jesus and Muhammad all together as in one? You would have such inspiration and awe. You would stop all your selfish behavior in their presence, right? So I need you to start making a list of where you are not dealing with your fears, where you are not dealing with your spiritual work, where you are avoiding breaking your addictions. Because we're sitting here having a conversation. This person's addiction is just overt.
By the way, fear is a huge
and it's all it's all coming from your fear even about the person. But yes, this person is a drug addict. That's an overt addiction that you think needs to be changed. But you have some internal addictions that are hidden from everyone. How dare you even tell me you want to change this person, that you're afraid for them? I get it looks all altruistic, but your words have no power because you haven't committed yourself to your transformation. I said, let's spend a week you going full force on your own personal transformation. And you're the only person who has control over yourself. This is so easy. You can transform. And that's the work I do with the person. And it's that plus prayer. So prayer is asking the Creator, how can I help? And letting go of what you think you can do to help and truly craving that the Creator show you how to help, how to talk. Right. And the mix of these two over time solves the problem.
And by the way, I believe that every single one of us, present company included, knows what they need to be doing.
That's right.
Right? The question is, are we making it a priority? If you had to sit down, and I know I suggested to make a list of your fears and start tackling them bit by bit this week and over the coming month, but if you sat down and made a list of all of the things you could transform, you could transform, right? There are things that you could be doing in a moment-to-moment basis that we're not doing because got bills to pay. Yeah. I got to walk the dog. I got to go to the grocery. But by the way, walking the dog and going to the grocery store and paying the bills can be the most spiritual experiences ever.
Yeah.
It's up to you how you do them. And if it's going to be, if the dog is a ball and chain or the bills are the ball and chain or Trader Joe's is the ball and chain, right? Whatever your local grocery store is called, you are the one bringing the darkness there.
That's right.
That to me is also a really huge lesson in, it's really asking myself, am I bringing the darkness or am I bringing the light? So that when that person that you are worried about sees you, if you're bringing the light, just being with you for that 5 minutes or 30 minutes or 2 days is going to be an inspiration to them to bring less darkness as well.
Love it.
So for all of us this week, I hope that we can look for, and again, this is not just, this suggestion doesn't expire next Monday at 9:59 a.m. If we can all be conscious of whether we're bringing light or darkness to any situation, even when it's just us in bed alone at night before we go to sleep, there will be dramatic change. I don't mean a little change, dramatic change in the way we live our lives.
I love it.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. How much time do we have? 30 seconds?
Minute and a half.
Final thoughts. I think to wrap it up, I would say it's a decision. I'm piggybacking off what you said. It's a decision you have to make of what kind of life you want to live. And at some point, I was so riddled with my own personal fears. I said, I have to make a decision. I want to live the life of the 5 minutes at a time life. And I'm going to take a chance on that. That means I'm going to totally ignore my future. I'm going to totally ignore all these intrusive thoughts. And I'm going to just plant positive seeds 5 minutes at a time. And then I'm going to look at my life a week later or a day later and see if the results are there. And if they are, great. And if I messed it all up, well, then I'm going to quit this show. I'm going to quit Kabbalah and I'm going to figure out something else to do. Because if I can't trust living my life 5 spiritual minutes at a time, then the whole thing we're doing here is a hoax and it's a bunch of nonsense. And we're just doing it for our own pleasure. So you got to make a decision how you want to live your life. I want to live my life by the laws and principles of certainty beyond logic and acting like the creator 5 minutes at a time. I have seen it work 100% of the time so far in the years that I've tried it. I challenge anyone else to try it. And it might seem irresponsible at first, but the creator comes in, the miracles come in. And by the way, you start to feel so much joy and happiness.
Do you know what's irresponsible? Bringing the darkness.
Yeah.
That's what's irresponsible.
And it's a horse you've been betting on thousands of times and it's been coming in last. I don't know why people bet on that horse.
Beautifully said. So again, everybody, thanks for joining us. We look forward to your comments and questions. You can post them on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Castbox, and Stitcher. If you don't feel comfortable asking your questions publicly, you can always email us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. It's because of you guys that more people are listening and sharing the show. So keep it up. Share, like, comment, and review us. Rate and review us on the podcast app so we can reach even more people. Have a fabulous week, fabulous month of Aquarius, and we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.